The road into Black Hollow was never meant to be traveled at night. Locals had long abandoned it, leaving behind cracked pavement, crooked signboards, and the chilling whisper of pine trees leaning over like watchful figures. Ethan Clark gripped the steering wheel tighter as his headlights cut through the fog. He hadn't planned on coming here. No one ever planned to come here. But his car had broken down miles away, and when he saw the faded sign pointing toward the town, he thought he might find help. The town looked dead. Storefronts were shattered, windows boarded up, streetlights rusted and lifeless. Every step he took echoed unnaturally in the silence. Then he noticed something strange. The houses weren't simply abandoned. They looked like people had fled in a hurry. Meals left half-eaten on tables, coats still hanging by doors, toys scattered on porches as if children had dropped them mid-play. But there were no bodies. Not one. As he walked deeper into the town square, he saw the church steeple rise in the mist. The bell above swayed slightly, though there was no wind. That's when he heard it. The unmistakable sound of metal dragging across stone, slow, scraping, deliberate. His heart pounded. He turned sharply toward the noise, and at the far end of the street, half hidden in the fog, a tall figure stood. Its face obscured, its clothes torn and soaked in something dark. In its hands it held a weapon, so rusted it looked more like a jagged piece of history than a tool. An axe. The figure didn't move at first. It just stood there, tilting its head slightly, watching him. Then, with a sudden jolt, it dragged the axe across the pavement, sending sparks into the night. Ethan ran. The streets twisted unnaturally, alleys leading to dead ends, doors locked or barricaded from the inside. Behind him, the scraping sound followed, never rushing, never slowing, always steady, always close enough to remind him there was no escape. He ducked into what looked like a general store. Shelves were overturned, glass shattered, dust coating everything. But it was what lay on the counter that froze his blood. A journal, open to the last page, the handwriting frantic and smeared with something red. It read, "We couldn't kill him. The axe won't let him die. If you hear the scraping, it's already too late. Don't look into his eyes. Don't—" The final word was cut off, the page torn violently. And then came a knock, slow, heavy, on the store's front door. Ethan backed away, clutching a fallen crowbar from the floor, his only weapon. The knocks grew louder, harder, shaking the glass. Then silence. He waited, holding his breath. The silence stretched until he heard breathing, not his own. It was coming from inside the store. Ethan froze. The crowbar trembled in his hands, slick with sweat. He strained his ears, every nerve in his body screaming at him to run, yet his legs refused to move. The breathing grew louder, ragged, uneven, like lungs that hadn't tasted air in years. He turned slowly, his flashlight beam cutting through aisles of broken jars and rotting boxes. Nothing. Only shadows clinging to corners. Then a whisper, a single word. Leave. It slithered across the room, low and guttural, not belonging to any human throat. Ethan stumbled backward, his light sweeping the far wall, and that's when he saw it. A figure crouched in the corner, pale and twisted, its eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Its chest heaved with that unnatural breathing, and in its skeletal hands it clutched a butcher's knife, the blade blackened with dried blood. Before Ethan could react, the thing shrieked, a hollow, broken sound that pierced the silence, and lunged. He swung the crowbar wildly, connecting with its shoulder. Bones cracked, but the creature didn't fall. It staggered, snarled, and slashed the knife, grazing his arm. Hot pain seared through him. He ran, bolting through the back of the store, bursting out into a narrow alley choked with fog. His flashlight flickered, threatening to die. Behind him, the creature's knife scraped along brick walls as it followed, its uneven footsteps echoing. And then, above the rooftops, the bell of the church tolled. Once, twice, a deep, mournful sound that rattled the night air. Ethan froze mid-step. The town seemed to shift with the sound, buildings groaning, windows shattering on their own. The fog thickened, swirling like it was alive. And then he saw them. Figures, dozens of them, emerging from the mist. Men, women, children, all pale and lifeless, their faces blank, their eyes empty. Each one held something, shovels, knives, pitchforks, rusty tools, like an army of the dead armed with whatever they could find. In their center stood the figure with the axe, taller than the rest, its head shrouded in shadows, the axe gleaming wet despite the rust. The bell tolled again, and the crowd began to move, slowly, in unison, toward him. Ethan ran down the alley, his chest burning, his vision blurring. He stumbled into the woods beyond the last row of houses, branches clawing at his skin, the sound of pursuit never far behind. The deeper he went, the colder it grew. The trees pressed close together, and soon he found himself stumbling into a clearing. At its center was a massive stone, carved with symbols that seemed older than the town itself. Rust-colored stains covered its surface, and at its base lay bones, piles of them, human. On the stone, half buried in the earth, was another weapon, a shotgun, old but intact. Ethan grabbed it, checking the chamber. 2 shells, only 2. The breathing returned, closer this time, and from the edge of the clearing, the figure with the axe stepped forward, dragging its weapon across the soil, sparks flying even on the damp earth. Ethan raised the shotgun, his finger tightening on the trigger. The axe figure stopped, tilting its head. Then, impossibly, it spoke. "The weapon chooses, not you." And with that, the shotgun grew hot in Ethan's hands, burning his palms until he dropped it into the dirt. The figure raised its axe, and the clearing filled with the sound of footsteps as the pale townsfolk emerged from the trees surrounding him. There was nowhere left to run.